All right, who did the should challenge last week and really focus on not using that word? They should have done something. I should have done something. I had a couple people join me in it, and I say I did all right, but I really, really struggled on Wednesday of this past week. So I know they say that the super full moon thing really isn't a thing and it doesn't really affect people's behavior, and that crazy people are crazy all the time, and mamas get frustrated, no matter what the moon cycle is. But I don't know. I think there's something about that full moon. I know my phone was kind of ringing off the hook and I was getting texts from other mamas. So maybe it's all in our head. Maybe it's a self fulfilling prophecy. I have no idea, but it happened. So it happened for me. So I hope that that should challenge was challenging, but still helpful for you. So, this week, let's talk about some of those parenting tools that kind of get a bad rap. Not a bad rap, I shouldn't say that. I get probably the most pushback about. So, they're things like redos, compromises, choices, and role playing. And I hear from a lot of parents like, my kid would never, ever do that. Or what do you do if you give choice A and choice B and then your child wants choice C, right? So we all have those people in our lives, those kiddos in our lives. Great question. And so this obviously is probably a more complicated answer than I can do justice here, but I'll just go over some brief concepts that might be helpful. And then if you have a specific question, I'd love for you to pop into our Facebook group and ask it, or even ask it in the comments below, and I'll certainly get back to you. So really, what we need to think about is what is our priority and goal when something is happening between us and our kiddos, or our kiddos are using a maladaptive behavior. Our primary goal should not be going after the redo or the choice or the compromise. In a lot of ways, those are kind of higher level skills, and skills that kids can use kind of once some other foundational things are in place. So connection should always be kind of our number one goal. And the more connected we are to our kids, and the more connected and they are to us, and more importantly, their level of felt safety. So I know for some really fragile kids, our view of connection actually makes our kids feel more fragile. So really, we're going for a sense of felt safety on the part of our kids. So unless that's going on, they really can't access some of those higher level tools that we're trying to offer them, which are choices and compromises, role playing, all of those things. So here are some things that you can focus on before you try to offer some of those things. Remember, first and foremost, we're responsible for ourselves, and we can only control ourselves. And so if you missed the video on self-care a couple weeks ago, you should go back and check that one out. So we have to, our body, our whole presence about us has to be more relaxed, more upbeat, more fun. Really, we have to be regulated. We have to have already built this foundation of saying yes to our kids in order to help build up their felt safety. We have to know how to love them in their love language, and we have to really respond to their fear with connection, and remember not to respond out of our own fear. And a lot of times our reactions come back to things that we fear, even if we're not fully understanding that that's what's going on. Be as playful as you can. That's a great way to connect without being too intimidating. Pay attention to your voice control and your nonverbal communication. Before our kids can do some of those higher level things, their bodies also need to be taken care of. So, be really cognizant of things like hydration and providing regular high protein snacks, and maybe even sensory needs. So if you're not familiar with sensory processing disorder, or some of the ways that maladaptive behavior can actually be an inability of our kids to process sensory, those are all basic foundational things, needs that our kids have before they can do some of those higher level things. So the next time you give choices or ask or expect a compromise, or, want to try a role play situation and it's just not going the way that the book said it was going to go back to the basics and fulfill some of those other really foundational basic needs first, and then move to a place where your child can tolerate choices, redos, all of those things. So I mentioned a lot of things that I don't have time to go into more detail in, so we'll cover those in future weeks, but I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. If you're really frustrated with using some of these tools, you might be using them a little prematurely. So maybe that's you. If that's you and you're having an aha moment right now, I'd love to hear about it. So go ahead, post in the comments. Again, I love to hear from all of you on whatever kind of social media platform you're hanging out at. I'm mostly on Facebook. I'm a little bit on Instagram. I'm less on Twitter, but I'm in all those places at MA Corkum. All those links are in the description. And there's also a blog post with a little bit more detail about some of those things that I'll also put in the description at the parentingwithconnection.info blog. All right, have a great week, guys, and I'll see you next week.